Hi friends, welcome to Pywarriors, and today I'm going to talk to you about a complete web development package, and the things that I'm going to share with you in this new tutorial series will be as follows. So here I'm planning to do a complete web tutorial series and primarily focused on Django and Angular. So I'll be using Django as the backend and Angular 7 as the front end. And let's see what I'm going to discuss in this series. So here I will be talking about Django, and I'll be showing you the development of a website from scratch, and I'll be going through all the stages, and finally I'll be deploying that to a dedicated box, probably a VPS machine, which I host this Pywarriors website. And in this series, I'll be covering all the basics, but I won't go a bit deeper into that topics because you can always refer to the documentation, or there are a lot of other web series which deal with this stuff. So I won't be nitpicking the basics pretty much, and then I'll be covering how you can set up your production environment and your development environment, and customize the settings to suit the needs. And I'll be going much deeper into Django Rust framework. So we will be using Angular 7 as the front end. So the backend would be Django, and particularly it would be Django Rust framework. And then I'll be going through the communication between the front end and back end, and using the Rust API. Finally, I'll be telling you how you can deploy this to a dedicated machine, and I'll be using Ubuntu as the server. So I have already got a server on OVH, I think, or a digital option. I don't remember that, and I have multiple servers, so I don't know which one this is hosted, but I'll be deploying that site into the server that this thing is running. So stay tuned for that. I have actually the site that I'm going to build is actually a production ready thing, or kind of like a completely usable thing, because it's for my wife's YouTube channel, which is Happy Hacks, and there she gets all the cooking related stuff, and it's in our native language. So I'll be developing that in with that in mind also, because the content would be more uh, in my native language. So but I will try to include English as well. So let's get into that stuff. So the thing that you are seeing is I'm using Tmux inside the iTerm terminal in Mac OS. So uh, I usually use Tmux a lot with Mac OS. So if you're familiar with this site, if with this YouTube channel, sorry, I have showcased how you can use tiling window managers in this channel earlier. So that was my Linux machine, and unfortunately, in this quarantine period, I'm not having my Linux box with me. So I'm stuck with Mac OS here. So primarily when working with Mac OS, I would like to use Tmux because it offers kind of the same features that are available in a tiling window manager. So here you can see I'm using a Tmux session by the name Happy Hacks, because I'm dealing with this particular project. And I have some weird key combinations here, so I won't be going in that section a bit deeper because I'll be making another video dealing with this stuff, primarily how I configure this Tmux and my Vim configuration also. I tried Emacs a little, but as I'm not comfortable with that, I went back to the Vim. So here, let's create a new window and let's check out what's here. This is my private work directory, and I have a folder name vents there. So I keep all the virtual environments there. So let's go to that folder and create a virtual environment for Happy Hats. Uh, the significance of virtual environment is that probably you would know that it can create a sandboxed environment for these Python packages to rest in. So I'll be creating a virtual environment here, virtual env Python 3 Python 3 because I want to use Python 3 as Django has dropped support for Python 2.7 from 1.11 onwards. So after after the Django's version 2, it only supports Python 3. So I have to create it likewise. And this command is cross-platform compatible. So if you're using Ubuntu or any other Linux distro for sure, you can use this command without any modification. So virtual hyphen p Python 3 and the name of the virtual. We can make it happy when. So it's installing the Python 3.7.6. That's the particular version here, and it's sorry. So um, by the time we can open up the Django's documentation page, Django. So that would be super helpful. So it's so the current latest release of Django is 3.0.5. So I'll be working on this particular version. So if you're tightly following this video, then you can specify the version as 3.0.5. Okay, so that's done. Virtual environment is created. Happy when. So we can go back to the works folder where I create the original project. So I can source and events, and that's happy when activate. So that would activate a virtual environment here. You can see that happy when is activated. And by the way, this is the my ZSH and framework for Z shell, and I'm actually using C shell, not bash. So I have had a lot of configuration in this end also that I will discuss in another video. So here I have activated the virtual end, and then we can install Django into this virtual end. So you can pip install. So I'll clear the terminal because it would be harder to view. So pip install. Make sure that you are inside the virtual end when you are doing this. Pip install Django. So that would install the latest version of Django into that virtual end, and let's see, it's 3.0.5. So wait for it. So now that Django has been installed, let's start a new project. So when we install Django, there is a command that would be available to us, that is Django admin start project. and you can specify the product name here. So I will just call it Happy Hacks because that's the name of the project that we are working on. You can also specify the domain name of the project here, so that would be super helpful if you are dealing with multiple projects. So this is in fact the domain of this project. It would be hosted on the domain happyhacks.in. So I started that project and let's see what we have here. So here you can see there is a folder named Happy Hacks. Let's jump into that folder and let's look the files there. So there are two a folder and a file there. Let's look it. So I don't have that installed. So this manage.py is actually a copy of that previous command that we have seen, Django admin. So it provides all the functionality that Django admin provides. So then let's see what's inside Happy Hacks folder. So these are the basic files that Django creates for us to get a project up and running. So to get it running, we just have to do a run server. So I won't be going to that right now. So first of all I need to create an application for my code to uh, where I do the primary coding. So to do that, to create a application or a Django project can be subdivided into different modules named apps. So I can create any number of apps and use that to containerize, or you can call it their DRY principle. Don't repeat yourself. So if you have some blocks of code that you are continuously using, or something that you can contain as a package, then you can use the app functionality. And also there would be a minimum of a single app would be needed to build a basic web, so basic application. So I'll be creating an app here. So instead of Django admin command, I'll be using the manage.py file that's provided with the project, and I'll be start app, I think, start app. It's a bit slow here, and I'll be naming this app as the web app because here in this web app will be the majority of our code. So I'll just create a application in web app, and you can see there is a folder named web app. And then I would like to install Django Rust framework, and also at the same time I'll be opening the documentation of the Django Rust framework, and that would be mm, really helpful. So this is the Django Rust frameworks documentation. So let's jump into the installation, and just you have to install this uh, three things, and then you have to add this into the install apps. That's all for now. So hit install Django Rust framework, and it has successfully installed Django Rust framework. And now what we have to do is we have to open the settings file of this app. And I usually use the settings app for production purpose only. So first thing I'll be doing is I'll get a copy of the settings file and mark it as dev settings. So here there's two files, one for dev purposes and another the actual settings files. And in installed apps we have to add the web app here so that it will be identified, and then I have to add the Django REST framework. So that would be Django REST framework. So I have both added the newly created web app and REST framework to the project, and then let's jump into the main URLs.py. So here's where the URLs come into play, and also I'd like to go to the web apps directory where the most of our coding would be done here. So let's create a new window here. Then I've got source. Sorry, I was in the wrong book there. So here I created that thing and I'll run that thing. And forward. And here I would do a little tweak. I'll be using a custom settings equal to happy hacks dot dev settings. So in this way we can use our custom settings while we are running on a local development environment. And something is, yes, another project running on that port. So let's change the port also. 0.0. I'll be running this on 8080. So yeah, and one thing to note that I have not changed the dev settings. Instead I have changed the settings file, so you have to keep track of that both thing to get. And here I'll be running on 8080. So here, yeah, we have successfully installed Django. So that's done, and development server is running, and we can switch back to the code and add those things from settings.py file to the settings also. So I will open it in another tab and then open that dev settings file in a virtual tab. Then here's what I've changed, these two lines. So I'll be copying that thing and do the same thing here. So I added both of that thing into the settings also. So most probably it will be reflected here. Sure. Nothing happens because we have not changed anything yet. So first of all, we could add a what to say. We are not using any front end aspect of Django, so this would be as far as anything goes. I'm not touching any HTML or CSS or anything in the Django context, and I'll be more using the Angular 7 stuff. So I'll create another project on Angular and start the front end from there. So most probably I'll be adding some models here. So let's jump on to defining the structure of the project here. So let's take the web app and let's jump on to the model structure. Right? Uh, this is the models. So I have my Pywarriors project and that has this block kind of thing. So I'll be using that structure to create a kind of a block like thing. Uh, by the structure I meant this because if you jump into this post, you can see that I have a video here and some text here, title here, and this is basically all that thing that went into this thing, and all the other functionality is provided by the social media plugins that I use. So um, let's use the same trick here because it's also basically a website which is used to drive traffic into a YouTube channel. So let's create our models here. So I'd start off with a split here and then jump right into the Pywarriors project. So here obvious Pywarriors. So this is the model structure. Here I am using a tag here, so that would also be super helpful with this particular site. And author is not relevant because I'm the only one that is going to post to this site, but I had provided this field for future proofing the website. So at a point in time when this website gets loads of traffic and there are multiple people managing this site, then it would be super helpful for us to monitor who is posting what and all that stuff. So as a future proof, I'm adding this model author, and this is the main blog model where I have a title, a body, a image field, and author field, which is in fact foreign key to that older model, the model that's above that, and is posted, it is featured, created it, tags, and a video here. Basically, this is the same as that of the Pywarriors project, so I could just use that project instead of creating a new project. But for the sake of the tutorial, I am using this. So I copy this stuff and then I paste this. So the models are done here because it's not that complicated to do. It's a simple website with a couple of functionalities. So that's why I'm just using this thing. So these are our models, and after adding the models, you have to do a migration in order for that models. The code that we have created here is in Python space. And mm, how databases work are a different story. So what Django is doing here is it has an object relational mapping system. So it has a one-to-one mapping to the database objects, and it connects that database objects to the Python objects that we are creating here. So in fact, it will just take this class and then convert it into a table on the corresponding SQL backends that we are using. So right now we are using the default SQL backend that comes with Django, that's SQLite 3. And while we are in it's not suitable for production because it's kind of it's just a file. So the file can get corrupted or something like that. So there is always the problem of losing your data, and when it gets bigger and bigger, the performance drops significantly as compared to traditional RDBMS systems like PostgreSQL or MySQL. So it's always recommended to use PostgreSQL in your servers. So uh, so for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not going to change that. In fact, what I do is I'll use SQLite 3 on my development environment, and I'll change that to PostgreSQL when on production. So since we are not pushing this to production right now, I'm just sticking with SQLite 3 as the backend, and for this code to be baked into that SQLite system, we need to run migrations. So let's see how it's done. So here, yeah, there is an error here that we can use image field because Pillow is not installed. Pillow is a library for managing images in Python. So let's install that library. Let's just pip install Pillow. Python imaging library, and it's kind of uh, mm, a library for managing image files. So I have Pillow installed, and then I'll be running a migration. Python manage.py make migration. So this will create a migration for the web app. As you can see, it had created all that um, code for integrating these models into the database, but it's not yet introduced into the database yet. For that, we have to run another command, and that's uh, migrate. So I'll just go there and migrate. So this will actually create the necessary SQL commands, and then run it using the connector that is being used. So the database connector that we are using is you can see here in the settings file that backends.SQLite 3. So this is the connector that we are using here. So using that connector, we have written the original SQL commands to the SQLite database, and now we can run the run server command once again, and here it is. So there won't be any change in the web app right now. Yeah, and we are not looking for it either. So we now have to create some APIs for the front end to communicate with the back end. So before doing that, we have to make the front end. So let's get to that in a second. So uh, I would like to wind up the first episode here because as far as Django is concerned, uh, pretty much everything is given, and you can refer the models here once again. So I'll go through these models briefly. So this is a model named tag, and it has just a field name. So the significance of this is that we can associate different tags to mod block. So the tag is actually being called into the block class as a many-to-many field. So a single block can have multiple tags, and we can retrieve and classify blocks using tags also. So I just have given this name here, and instead of giving this to a field inside the block class, the problem with that is there is a limited number of fields that you can give to a class without bloating it. So this is currently the recommended way of doing things. There is more efficient ways of doing this, like another class with foreign keys to both tag and block, and manage it as a separate entity, and so on. So it depends on the use case and how much data that you are receiving. So the author model here is uh, it's a model that can be used to track who is writing which blog, and since currently I'm the only one that is using this blog, it's of little relevance here. So there is a foreign key to the default user, um, which is the default uh, model that Django provides from its contrib.auth module, and here is a boolean field with which I can control who can post and who cannot, and is authorized or not. In fact, I don't actually we don't need this field here, because the Django's user field already has a three different flags for managing users, but I'll let it there, because uh, you can either tinker with the default user uh, model that Django provides, or you can write your own. So this is a simple use case, so I won't be delving deep into that thing. And as far as the block model is concerned, there's a title here, a body, which is a text field, and images. So there is probably a single image for a blog, and we can upload that to a particular directory, and the author is foreign key to that previous model, and this is posted is for monitoring if a blog is posted or not, and so this feature can be used to take down a blog, edit, and post it back, and is featured this was added so that we can have a list of featured blogs in the front, and create a date, that's obvious, and tags and video URL, and this corresponds to the YouTube video URL. So you can, since it's a blog that is meant to attract users and channel that users into the YouTube channel. This would be uh, this this is a sure addition to that. So I'm having trouble with my throat, so please excuse me for that. And that's all for now. So I'm winding up this episode of Django's and Angular web development tutorial. So in the next session, we would start off with the Angular project, and let's see how it fares and how it can start an Angular project and build a, user interface using that. And I'll be using uh, a CSS framework named Bulma in that. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. And I'm actually enjoying my quarantine, and so I'm actually making more of these videos. So stay tuned and have a nice day.